Assalamualaikum. Today, I'm going to presenting about animation in Hungary. The first slide is History of Hungarian Animation. The history of Hungarian animation starts in 1914 and continues on to the present day, starting with brief promotional cartoons prior to the two world wars. Hungarian animation underwent an intermittent and healthy growth during tumultuous war years, which were marked in large part by the emigration of most of the field's top talent. As the Hungarian Communist Party seized power and the Iron Curtain took form, this migration slowed drastically throughout the 1915. The nationalization of the Hungarian animation studio came with communists, a fact which has to be a blended blessing for the developing industry. While political interference would decide the kind of topic animation might tackle during the early years, state finance ensured that even the comparatively small nation after the war could show itself internationally. Indeed, the calming effects of Gola's communism after the 1956 revolution made it possible for artists to start voicing themselves in a way which would rank Panoni Film Studio along with Walt Disney, Hanna-Barbera, Soyuz Film Toei among the top 5 big cartoon studios in the late 1970s. With communism ending in 1989, the state monopoly of animation was dropped and several private animation studios were promoted by market powers. Hungary animation studios today lack state funds and had to establish finance techniques that consist primarily of operating as producer and design firms carrying out labor-intensive animation work, such as composing and incentive for overseas studio. Nevertheless, every few years, Hungarian films are made. The next slide is early animation efforts. Hungarian animation was first performed through experiments and the development of Gyula Mekesi and the Janos Helles, the first animation studio led by pioneers. Animation were mostly promotional while intricate plot structure were being established in the 1930s. In the years 1932 until 1945, there were 115 promo cartoons produced. The next slide is modern animation. First generation animation. Folktale animation is common and Hungarian animation by such animators are growing this period. The second generation animation. Foreign animation teams continue to enter Pannonia Film Studio as a means of reducing the cost of cartooning in certain work-intensive regions. In domestic works, however, morbidity and black comedy are more popular with the creative community under the pressure of an oppressive communist dictatorship as cartoons has been used to suggest and represent today's ideology and circumstance. The third generation animation. The third generation of films is characterized by a silent subsurface focus on paranoia and a claustrophobic fear of operation set under governmental pressure. Asian animators first and second generation tend to stress morality and rescue creation. The next slide is the 1980, a decade that was considered responsible of the head of the Hungarian animation in the 1980 symbolized and allegory were used to represent Hungarians under the communist rule, and the exploration of many non-traditional media marked the revival of technological experiments. A variety of new series of studies since this period have appeared. The next slide is current animation industry. In Hungary, communism was terminated at the end of the century. The film market has repeatedly stimulated the production of many independent animation studios. While state funding has been provided for the Hungarian animation studio Panoni, in the absence of the administration studio like Kecskemét Film use employee ownership tactics while other studios work mostly as contracted on international markets, for example, composition and inking. Thank you and Kazanam for watching.